Welcome to this audio introduction for the Lantern Room documentary. Please note the documentary is audio described throughout. This introduction offers physical descriptions of the core team, further details on important visual moments that could not be fully described during the film, and an overview of the documentary's overall style. The introduction is narrated by audio describer Megan Smith and filmmaker Noah Cox. In addition to this introduction and the audio description track, you will also hear short excerpts of live audio description taken from rehearsals and the final sharing, which will describe what is happening on the screen in those moments. The following are brief physical descriptions of the core team, listed in order of speaking appearance. Yusuf is the man in the opening shot standing on the beach in Josie with his back to us. He faces a deep blue sea on a calm, clear day. He's in his 40s and of Turkish Cypriot heritage. Yusuf is slim, around 5'7", with black hair thinning at the back. He's blind and uses a white cane. In the opening shot, Yusuf is wearing a black fleece and carries a full black backpack over both shoulders. Jack Norris, the writer and co-facilitator, is a lithe white man in his late 20s. He's around 5'2", with short, wavy, light brown hair, light stubble and freckles. Kamil, the co-facilitator, is a solid white man in his late 20s. He has short black hair, a short brown beard, brown eyes and wears round glasses with black frames. Ellie is the actor playing Ava. She's in her early 20s, slim, about 5 feet tall. She has thick, long, light brown hair and a pale complexion. Ellie is visually impaired and uses a cane. Yusuf is an actor. He's a slender East Asian man in his mid-20s with straight black hair that almost reaches his eyes. Jack Byron, the producer, is a white man in his late 20s. He's lean, around 6 feet, and has a small hoop earring in one ear. He has thick dark wavy hair that almost reaches his eyes and a shadow of dark stubble. Dominic, the composer and sound designer, is around 30. He has very short dark hair cropped close to his head, light skin and dark stubble. Noah, the filmmaker, is a tall, slim white man in his mid-20s. His light brown hair is long on top and short at the sides, and he has a short, stubbly beard. He wears mostly black during the film and has thick-rimmed glasses. Nat, the director, is a white woman in her mid-20s with light brown hair tied up in a high bun with a blue and white hair scrunchie. Stella, the costume designer, is a tall young woman with long blonde hair worn loose and blue eyes. Lara is an access support worker. She's Latina in her early 20s with pale skin, curly shoulder-length brown hair and brown eyes. In her interview, she wears cat-eye-shaped glasses with a thin gold frame. Risha is another access support worker. She's a young mixed-race woman with light brown skin, curly brown hair and a big smile. Sophia is a visually impaired actor. She's around 17 with long brown wavy hair, dark brows and dark eyes. She states, "Although I have a lot of dark features, I'm white." Joey, an actor, is a petite middle-aged woman around 5 feet tall. Her choppy, straight dark hair reaches her chin. In interviews and certain shots, she wears large, square glasses with thick black rims. Megan, the audio describer, is in her mid-30s with dark eyes and very dark curly hair messily pinned up. She's around 5'6" with a pale, freckly complexion. Patrick is an actor who does not speak directly to camera but appears in rehearsal footage. He's a slim, older white man with fairly long silver-grey hair tied back in a ponytail. Josie is the outside eye, who also does not speak directly to camera. She's a white woman in her mid-20s with dyed red hair.
Hello, my name is Noah Cox and I am the filmmaker behind In the Lantern Room. When I was thinking about how I was going to film, I wanted to use a very naturalistic style. And by that I mean that I shot it as true to life as I could, to record things as they happened in a very hands-off, unobtrusive manner. On the days I was there, I would be dressed in very dark clothing, in the corner of the room or around the edges, filming from a distance so that the process could go on with as little interference from me as possible. As far as possible, nothing was staged, no lights were added. I wouldn't ask anyone to stand in a certain way or to do a certain action. What actually happened was all that I captured. But I still wanted the film to feel high quality and that it had artistic direction. I didn't want the audience to feel like they were a fly on the wall peering in from the edges. So I shot the film with a lot of long lenses, which meant that I could still get the intimacy of a close-up while still having the camera physically far enough away to not distract from the process. So for example, towards the end of the documentary, Joey describes her favourite scene of Ava discovering the lighthouse. In real life, I'm across the room so that they could rehearse undisturbed, but the camera had a very long lens on so that the frame is very tightly focused on Ava, just from the shoulders up, and her experience of discovery. Because I only use natural light and theatre spaces are quite dark, I had to shoot with a very shallow depth of field. What this means is that the subject of an image is very sharp and very detailed. So in this case, Ava, we can see her in total clarity, all of her facial expressions. We're focused in on her experience. But everything in the background, the further you get away from the subject, the details blur and melt away. When Joey describes little lights appearing around Ava, they're hardly in focus at all. They're just incandescent blurs, unknowable and unidentifiable, drifting around her as we focus on her experience. Of course, some of the shoot had to be more constructed, namely the interviews. I knew early on that the experiences and perspectives of the cast and crew would be the through line of the film. So I made time to sit down with as many of them as I could, or I asked them to record themselves after the fact. And these were done in batches. The first was done in a hotel room in Jersey at the end of the research trip with the two Jacks, Yusuf and myself, in a hotel room in Jersey. We only had a single lamp for lighting, so these interviews were very dark. Only one side of the subject's face is lit at a time, and everything is in darkness. But because we were doing quite heavy emotional reflections, that felt appropriate. The second batch of interviews was at the end of the design R&D with Nat, Stella, Dom and Yusuf again. Time was short on these interviews, so they were being recorded as the room was being packed away. In the background you can make out team members moving back and forth, packing the room away, but we still had the shallow depth of field, so the person being interviewed is in complete detail, whereas the rest of the team are just moving shapes. And the last of the big interviews that I recorded myself was Jack N's throughline, his narration, which we sat down and recorded for several hours straight. Jack was sat in front of a window that had blinds on, which with the shallow focus made it look a little like the ridged glass on the Fresnel lens that we found in the real lighthouse, which I found interesting. And we were talking for so long that over the course of the documentary you can steadily see it turning from day to night outside the window. The last shot of Jack's interview right at the end is against a deep blue night sky, even though we'd started filming in bright sunshine earlier that day. As people talked in their interviews, I asked them to describe what they were talking about in as much visual detail as they could, so that when editing I could use images of what they're describing without visually impaired audiences losing context for what's happening on the screen. And I used Dom's sound design and music composition to support this. Because of how much talking there unfortunately wasn't enough space for Megan to describe a lot of the visuals, but my hope was that this approach of the visuals being directly led by what was being described in the interviews meant that visually impaired audiences always had context and could always follow along the narrative of the documentary and would still be able to feel the atmosphere of the spaces. We did, however, want to elaborate just a little further with some of the key visuals of the film that there wasn't enough time to properly audio describe. So Megan has prepared some extra description for these shots that she's going to share with you now.
When people speak directly to camera for interviews, they are mostly shown in head and shoulders shots against a variety of mostly lightly coloured backgrounds. A few are filmed in the rehearsal room, which is darker, with faint figures moving behind them. When someone is speaking to camera, their voice often speaks over other footage, including various locations around Jersey, rehearsals and the sharing. When Memories of the Marshland is mentioned, there is footage of actors rehearsing in a vast black box rehearsal space with a tall cream curtain at the back. During these rehearsals you will hear live audio description. When the describer refers to rifles, these are long, thin bamboo sticks. St. Catherine's Pier in Jersey is a long walkway made of mossy grey stone, stretching about a mile into the blue sea. On the left is a higher wall, at least several metres high, with a thin white railing. On the right, a lower pedestrian walkway with a thin red railing. When the team are described as sitting on the pier, they are at the end, underneath the high stone wall on a smaller stone lip, next to a tall radar made from thin white metal slats. La Grève d'Azette lighthouse, which Noah mentions during his interview as being bare bones and exposed to the elements, is a tall white structure on the beach, made of rusting, thin white metal slats. It has no cover, and the curved winding staircase through the middle is visible from the outside. When Jack Norris gets the giggles and does multiple takes, he laughs at himself for enthusiastically holding up 2 fingers on each hand while saying Phase 2. The room used for Yusuf's training workshop for access workers and for the final sharing is part of Scrum Theatre Studios. It has a long window with an equally long terracotta-coloured sofa beneath it. To the right of the window is a wall made of blackboard material, displaying a breakdown of all the scenes. The room has a blue carpeted floor, cream-coloured brick walls, and white pillars. During the final sharing, the actors and creative teams sit on chairs in a line, facing an audience of around 20 people. The visually impaired audience member who speaks after the sharing is Candy. She's a white woman in her 50s with long, wavy, dark blonde hair. She wears tinted glasses and a red cardigan. Towards the end of the film, when Noah mentions the different ways we perceive the world, there are quick close-up shots of the team's eyes from just above the eyebrows to the middle of the nose. It flashes through a quick succession of variety: light eyes, dark eyes, different eyebrow colours, darker skin, pale skin, freckled skin and lined skin.